Call the April Atherton Park and Rec meeting to order. Can we get the roll call, please?
Member Hunter, Chair Key,
Here.
Member Merrill, Member Robinson, Vice Chair Robinson,
Here.
Member Rozier, Council Member DeGolia.
Okay. Do we have any public comments online? None online, and don't any public comments in the room? Okay. No presentations. We have the February 5th minutes that were sent to you all before the meeting. Are there any changes or anything to add for anyone? Seeing none, do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any abstentions or nays? Hearing none, approved unanimously. What's that? Oh, okay, okay. So I'm going to move the agenda around a little bit. Since we have Brightview online, we'll cover 5E first. Although I guess maybe we'll let Will, you do the Brightview overview part, and then if we have any questions for Brightview, since they're on the line, we can ask. So is there anything you want to present about the Brightview summaries that you have?
Both of the February and the March quality assessments are in your packets. If you have any questions or anything like that, I'm here. And also we have Steve Anders, manager.
Hey, everybody.
And he's here to answer for you also.
Yeah. Thank you for attending, Steve.
Absolutely.
So are there any questions since we just did the walkthrough in the park, are there any questions for Steve or any comments about the maintenance around the landscaping? Okay, yeah. Great. Remember, if you want to be recorded to hit the, yes.
Things have improved dramatically, and they're much better than they were a number of years ago.
I second that.
Yeah, I agree too.
It looks really good. I think most of the things we'll be suggesting are almost, to the level of maybe seeming a little nitpicky, but it looks so good that.
Good. I'm glad to hear
minor
that.
details.
Glad to hear that.
The monthly Brightview comments in our meeting notes are excellent. Very helpful.
Perfect.
Steve, did you have anything you wanted to inform us?
No, I just thank you guys for letting me sit in on this, and we're super happy that you guys are happy with the park as well. Augustine and the team out there, really take pride in their work, and I think the park shows. So we're really glad to have the partnership with the town of Atherton.
Okay. Are there any public comments on this item? Brightview quality site assessments. Seeing none, I think we can close this item and move on to the next.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Will, just let me know, Will, if anything comes up.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. 5A, capital improvement project recommendations. So every year about this time, we kind of review, we go through the park, we kind of look at the things that we would recommend to council about things that we would like to see done for the park, we think would really help the residents here. So we just did the landscaping walkthrough, and are there, well, maybe we should review what's currently planned, and I'm happy to do it if you want. Okay. So just looking at the what was planned already in terms of funding from the council, the playground bathrooms, of course. So that's still ongoing, and we'll talk about that in 5B. The fencing improvement along Watkins, and I think Will is going to find out from Robert, what the status of that project was. If I recall, we were waiting for something or other to occur on Watkins before we did the new fencing along the channel. But I forget what that was. But that's been already funded by council, so we're just waiting for whatever we're waiting for, and then that will be done. And then in the future, the pavilion, so the pavilion flooring and cosmetic updates are in progress. And then there was 100K for general assessment and miscellaneous repairs. But in the future, FY '26, there's a plan to add solar and energy resiliency. And then in FY '27, the master plan park refresh is supposed to be done. So those are the only future-looking projects that we have. Are there, I'll just open it up for committee discussion or committee questions about anything they'd like to see in upcoming years to be funded.
Master plan. How is that done? How's that done? Do we have an expert who comes in? What happens? And how much money would it cost?
I think that there's either $200,000 or $250,000 allocated for it. It'll be a consultant. It'll be 100% an outside consultant. I don't think that it will happen next year.
No, it's
I
27.
think it'll be,
FY '27,
so 27, 28.
26, 27. It's,
Let's see, this is 25, 26.
Yes.
In 25, 26, we're going to be doing the bike ped master plan. In 26, 27, my guess is we'll do the drainage master plan.
okay.
So the park master plan
Could be
would
1 year
probably
further.
moved
Okay,
out
okay.
to 27, 28.
And then,
Let me just also add, I think that the solar resilience issue, which is adding solar panels onto the pavilion, won't happen.
Okay,
And I think it won't happen because we don't have the need for the electricity in the park.
okay.
yeah,
If we did that, we'd just be selling that electricity back to PG&E,
And they're not giving a very
and
good
the rates are
A
really
low- a
terrible
low
for
rate,
that.
Yeah, right.
Okay, okay.
I think there might have been a consideration of when power is out in the town, having enough places for people to go where there's power. And I think now the theory is here and over at the library might be our spots.
Right.
Yeah.
And they just changed over the backup for the library, so the library now has backup power.
Right. Also, the carriage house, I notice, is quite popular for people to rent. And I'm wondering if we can't concentrate on that to get that. A, we need a bathroom. B, there's lots of other things that could be done. We at one point, I think on the foundation, had an estimate for that. And if you really went through it and did a lot, you could spend $1 million or more. But it seems to me that's ought to be something we put on our list. How, as far as how much would be done and how, we'd have to have that looked at. But I would, it seems to me that would be a net logical thing to do. It would help us try to raise some money there. Because as I say, it seems quite popular. I mean, relatively speaking, we're of course at all-time low. But I would recommend we have something on the carriage house there. We tried to replace the bathroom or redo it for 2 years.
Yeah, that's been
now.
funded. It's just,
Right.
we just can't find a contractor to do it.
That's astonishing. Although I asked about that, and I think we could find a contractor who could do it if we just said, here's what we want, here's the design.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem so difficult for me to design a bathroom. We're doing it right out in the playground right now.
Yeah.
And this is just internal. I mean, I have trouble understanding that.
That might be a slightly different bathroom because we're actually taking I think most of the proposals has been prefab or the cheapest one is prefab and then you just plop it in.
Oh, I know that.
But the
I know
pavilion house
that.
bathroom was redone. So couldn't it be, rather than the playground bathrooms, the pavilion restroom was redone too?
Yeah,
year ago? Or-
Yeah, they were done,
Yeah,
totally, both of them.
so I'm just saying, rather than model the playground restrooms, you could model after the pavilion restroom
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
carriage house.
So what specific improvements are you asking for in the carriage house?
Well.
Besides the bathroom, which is, I mean, maybe we have to spend a little more money to get a contractor interested, but
No, I think we ought to have somebody go through and do a design, look at it
okay.
and see how else we can use that. And I don't know whether the back room or the up above, I think the upstairs is probably out of luck just because it's there. But there is a lot of space there that could be
There is a lot of
used.
space. And just to clarify, Walt, you're saying because it's already popular to rent, sprucing it up might get even more people to rent, and then current renters would just be happier with the facility? Is that kind of what you're?
Right, Julia, and what I'm saying is, it's relative. I mean, we're getting very few rentals there.
Yeah.
But the ones you do see, there's a group that meets there every week and more often, and when we did our tours over there, we saw people inside.
Mhm.
So there's some reason they like that, as if they could have had the pavilion for the group that was there.
Yeah, the carriage house kind of has character in
Yeah,
a way. yeah.
exactly. And they used to have lunches there and all
Mhm.
kinds of things.
Should we wait till we have an event coordinator who can make that recommendation about what should be done? 'Cause-
Well, I don't sure I'll be alive at that point, but in any case, I think we ought to dredge up what was done before
okay,
and see, I mean, that's a perfectly legitimate point.
Yeah.
But we talked about doing that on in the pavilion too.
yeah.
Why don't we get an event coordinator, not ours, but anybody to go through and say, here's how it can be used. We pay a consulting fee. But that's the last piece that we've not really touched very much. And so it seems to me that's the other asset we ought to be looking at.
Okay, okay.
And since we have very little otherwise to propose for money, we know the town would like to spend more money, so we could try that.
So we can include that idea. So be a consultant, designer.
You're right.
You know, the Dames had hired a very competent architect to do a whole design on the carriage house, which was done about 10 years ago. And very, very thorough, total redo, consistent with its history. So maintaining its history, but updating it. It
And they
was,
used the
it was a
same
lot of
person-
money.
Used the same person that did Wonderlic Park, I think.
Exactly. The horse facility there.
Oh, the
Exactly.
stables?
Yeah.
That's a
Stables.
beautiful.
Yeah,
I would live there.
yeah, he's very well known, and exactly the same guy is who did the design that the Dames have. I have a copy of it.
Okay, so
But-
maybe we can use that proposal as the basis for,
Mm,
did the council previously consider, and just said at that time they didn't have the funding because 10 years ago the town wasn't in
Well,
good
it's
fiscal
a
shape?
couple $1 million.
Yeah.
Oh, the changes, okay. Oh,
And of course, it was being done first class, just like Wonderlic.
okay.
Yeah, no, he's very
So-
good, and it was totally consistent with its historic quality.
Right.
But only 10 years ago.
10 years ago, yeah.
I
about
think-
So
10
that
years
seems,
ago.
I mean, you'd think that an update would,
Well, I think the problem was more, it was $2 million.
Right.
Estimate for how much it would cost to do it, and that's
Well,
quite.
it was I mean, the foundation looked at doing fundraising for it.
Right.
I don't remember exactly.
It was way out
It
of
was just
the,
too expensive, I think.
exactly, way out of the regime that we could
oh,
do.
10 years ago, they looked at doing this. They didn't
Yes.
do.
And
I
they
was-
had
I
a
was like, wait,
plan,
They
yeah.
upped it, okay.
And it was a $2 million
They
plan.
Updated 10 years. got it.
Yeah, it's a conceptual
Got
plan.
it.
It's not a
No,
construction
Yeah.
plan.
Right. Question is how we retrieve that.
and I guess if we do bring a consultant on, we have to give them a kind of a budget target or how much, $500,000 or something like that for the changes they could design, and they would, obviously, when they figured out what to change, they would keep that budget in mind.
Yeah, I think there's two ways to do that, Alex. One is to bring somebody in who's an event planner, combination designer, who would say, look, we could use this area here, we could use this area here. What you need is, the walls need to be
Yeah.
different or whatever we're gonna do.
Okay.
That's very different, I think, from a design consultant who comes in and says, I'll give you drawings that, you know, are even conceptual. So,
So it's kind of a question of what's going to give you the best bang for the buck.
exactly,
Okay.
particularly given the budget
Okay, we can make that recommendation.
and how much we can retrieve from what was done before.
Yeah, that's going to be harder to probably predict. But they could just tell us what works they've seen in other facilities.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing we can suggest. Is there anything safer that?
Can I ask a clarifying question? What goes under sort of that, what goes in that bucket versus? I just need clarification on what goes into the capital improvement project. Cause you know, I'm gonna talk about the
Yeah.
entryway and exit.
I mean, the signage could go in, but it's probably cheap enough that it.
No, but so what Frank and I have been talking about, or what I've been trying to do over the last couple of years, but the signs look great, the actual signs that were replaced. It's the white picket fence looking, dated looking entryway and exit.
Okay,
That is something that I think could look a lot better and could be designed to, you know, look a little bit more like what, you know, the library signs and the town center signs. They're
Okay.
just very simple and contemporary and,
so you want to change the picket fence with something else?
yes,
Okay,
like the whole structure would be replaced.
okay. I mean, I guess we could suggest that and see if the council, I mean, do you have a specific?
Well, I mean, the
do you
easy
want
thing
a
to
designer
do would
come
be to
in?
go to the people who did, you know, the few signs that are around here, the people that redid the library and the town hall. And just, you know, ask them for, since they did those signs, ask them for an estimate for what it would be to, you know, do something that
Okay,
looks similar to that.
so the entrance and exit signs replacement.
Would the
Yeah,
signs be
the-
the same
The,
place?
the sign, yeah, to distinguish between, it's not the signs which we'll replace.
mean-
It's the thing that holds the sign.
But would be
Yeah.
the same
Exit.
place?
Well, I think that could be looked at too. I mean, it probably makes sense because it's kind of, as you go into the park, I mean, that's, you know, where we want people to look to see the signs that we'll replace, but whatever holds them maybe doesn't need to be so big and so prominent. I don't know, that's where a sign, you know, a company that specializes in that could bring us some ideas and show us what they.
So is
So here, let me see if I can find.
I'm wondering, is the gate historical where,
Well,
did Frank say it's okay to get rid of them? If he says okay, it's probably okay.
Well, I don't wanna
There's a
speak-
historical gate that is on the Gilmore House side of the exit.
Okay,
The asphalt exit pathway. The gate that is across from that, that's on the Watkins side of the pathway, and the gate that's at the entrance are all modeled to be similar to that historic gate, which is on the Gilmore House side. of
okay.
the-
Yeah.
So one of the gates
let me
is
show them
historical.
first, because
One of the gates is definitely historical.
So-
It was there.
Okay,
Yeah. Now we tried.
so this
them,
is
as
either
you
the
say.
exit or the entrance, and this is the thing that I'm talking
Yeah,
about, right? The white slatted
Yeah.
thing. I just to make sure.
yeah, if it's modeled on the historical look, that's
Right.
kind of a big change to recommend. And I'm just curious that Frank said it was okay or?
No, I'm not
Oh,
speaking for
okay.
Frank.
Okay,
Frank and
okay.
I were gonna look at it, you know, together and talk about it. I guess I would need, Rick, when you say the thing near the house, does it include all of the stuff that's designed like that we couldn't
No,
update any of them?
most of that, I can't totally see which one
Sorry,
that
it's
is,
just
but
it's just the,
Just a sign coming.
yeah,
in.
that's on the, on the Watkins
Watkins
side
side.
of the, drive. That's modeled after the historic fence that's on the Gilmore House side of the drive.
okay, so that's, I guess then I should pose it as a question. If that's sacrosanct and cannot be changed or anything, then we don't need to talk about it anymore. But if it's something that,
Yeah.
you know, might be considered for an update, since it looks very dated.
So, I mean, Frank would know for sure. I don't know if you could check with him and just find out if, because he probably has the most history. And
Okay.
I'm not sure how the.
I'll get okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And I'm
mean,
not
if it's
sure-
one of those things that's gonna be, you know, that if nobody else finds it looking dated and nobody else would get excited about, when you look at some of the signs, they're very streamlined. You know, they're darker, they look more, I mean, it's a park, you know, nature-like. I mean, that part, at least in design, is okay.
Oh,
It's
so you just want to get rid of the top
Well,
part?
no, I mean, you would need to redo I'm just saying, at least there's a tree and this is dark wood. It's all the white stuff and the slats that look, that part of it's that
Okay,
what looks
okay.
dated.
So the top's okay.
But I don't want to fight for something, well, I mean, you would end up having to replace the whole thing. I'm just saying, you know, at least that looks sort of park-like. You
Yeah.
know, the rest of this doesn't really, but you would have to replace the whole thing. I have pictures too of a couple of the signs around here. I mean, they're very low profile, so, you know, these signs have to go on to something. But I don't want to, you know, I mean, if it's one of those things that can't be touched or no one else finds it, that it looks dated, you know, it's not something that I need to, you know.
I would have to say, if you look at this park, it's dated. That's what we've preserved. The rest of the park is dated.
I don't think that the ballpark was only, you know, built,
Rest of the park, other than that, is dated. The main houses are dated. You know, we've tried to maintain that, but I'm fine to look at it, but I just think Frank will say, he's worked really hard. He said the Boy Scouts repaint that area, fix it up, you know, redo the wood that was rotted in that very area. So we can see.
okay. Because to me, it doesn't really go with any of the other structures in the park either. And I realize that the water tower and the carriage house, I mean, those are meant to have the character of what the era that they're from.
You know,
The entryway, you know, could be a little bit more inviting and a little bit more modern looking.
sure.
But anyway,
Okay.
I'll just put that out there, and if it's kind of an impossible thing, and I'll ask Frank.
Well, yeah, I'd like to get Frank's opinion since
Okay.
he would know the most and.
Yeah, but thank you, your work on that and on the signs. I think we've really improved the area.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem, and they're so much better than they were.
Right.
Okay, and they do have the cars going in and out there, so I think you're trying to change the stuff that looks dated to you
Right.
and doesn't have the same view, same feel.
Yeah,
With the
just
other
making,
signs
yeah,
that we
just
have.
making the entry
But
and
those-
exit look a little more appealing
And
and,
somebody's have to look, they're quite different than the other signs that we have in terms of the size of them, where they sit, how they sit, and et cetera. These are kind of special because they're entrance and exit.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good thing to find out about the historical
Yeah.
significance of the
will do.
sign, okay?
Yep. Thanks.
And is there anything for the tennis courts that you think we should do for the next year?
I think that we should really, at some point, say, what are we going to do with the clay court? Are we going to make it into a regular tennis court and then get more usage of the tennis courts,
Yeah.
or are we going to?
Well, this
Just
is
kinda-
this is the forum to make that recommendation if you
Yeah,
want it to happen.
I think we ought to change it to a standard court.
Okay, we can.
And because we haven't been able to figure out how to properly have the tennis court, the clay court be the right surface, get it to the right amount of water on it.
Yeah.
I played on tennis courts that were clay, they had to be done every day.
Yeah.
Somebody worked on the court every day. And so by the time we got there at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, it was perfect. But then they did it every day.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a water problem.
Yeah.
So we have both problems. One is to have somebody that's just going to do the court. You're not going to get somebody to just do the court unless we pay for that. And you have to figure out what you're gonna do with the water, and they've tried a couple of things and nothing has worked in terms of filter or
We need
anything
the
like that.
municipal water.
So I think we've just reached a point with you look at the number of people who are playing on clay, that we would be better off at some point putting in money and make the thing into a standard court.
Okay. And do you think Michael would be okay with that?
I think he would be.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he would be because that would give everybody more opportunity to get on when they want to get on.
Okay.
And he pointed out the difficulty of that clay court when we were talking about essentially taking away a tennis court for pickleball.
Yeah.
So that was essentially the thrust of his
Yeah.
comment. So I agree with Bob, but we obviously ought to talk to Michael.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so that's that, and then I think probably part two of the Jennings revival of light fixtures and paint. Where was paint already on there? And then, but I know Dorothy had recommendations for light fixture improvements and things like that, so sconces, okay, so we can add that in. Pictures.
Was anything discussed as far as the stuff that's on the walls? Not the award plaque, but the other decorative items that are on the walls in there?
In terms of adding more art or,
Replacing the stuff it's very random looking if you think about it.
I mean, I think, well, Dorothy is doing the main house art and I'm sure maybe she would be willing to have art also be put on and.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Or make actually recommendations on
Yeah.
what can be done.
That would be great.
Yeah, so maybe we'll just say light fixtures, the sconces and
Wall,
art of some sort for that. And that's kind of budget TBD because art
Mhm.
can really vary in terms of cost. Or we could have the art donated and then,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
okay. Are there any other recommendations? Let's see, like a DG walking path or senior playground? Open up for public comment? No? Okay. Okay, so I think we have two suggestions with one suggestions to be determined. One was conversion of the clay court into the hard court, a event planner to make some recommendations about the carriage house, that's right. And then we'll see from Frank in terms of his recommendation for the entrance and exit way fencing. Yeah,
Would the camouflaging of the dumpster be something that would go in this bucket?
you can make that. And you want it to be where it is or just want to have?
I mean, I don't know, because I don't know the logistics and I certainly don't know all of the details, and even a fence might be problematic. That's why I said camouflage, because I'm not sure what the, it's just something, because, it's just kind of an eyesore as you go into the, as you go around
Yeah.
the corner.
Do you have
But
any?
I mean, I realize that, again, I realize this is sort of a nitpick. I mean, if you have to have the dumpster there, you gotta have the dumpster there, but it is kind of ugly. And so if there was a way to put something up that would camouflage it a little bit, I think that would look a little nicer.
Yeah, I think the area that it's at is logistical for that because the trucks have to back in, take it away. So putting it in the courtyard would be too hard because we have a lot of drainage and stuff
Yeah.
like that. You can't put a lot of weight in there. I'm not sure if a structure or something can be area. That would have to. We can look to recommendation.
Dumpster for refuse?
Yeah,
Park refuse.
yeah. Yeah, we can, I mean, if the committee wants, we can just make a recommendation that some kind of enclosure or way to hide,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, see
dumpster.
what would work and what it would cost and whether it's feasible given the comings and goings that Will's mentioning. And if it's not feasible logistically, then we just ignore it. Could put bushes in front of it or something. I don't know.
Well, we could, well, but you need some way for the truck to get in.
I
You could
know.
put, you could
That-
put
it would
bushes
have
on
to-
3 sides, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
I don't know enough about the logistics
That
to
might be the best plan then, if you.
plant something,
Have
yeah.
plantings around it and then, and I don't know if you could put a gate in front
Yeah.
and just open the gate and then.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that? Okay, okay. Plantings.
White picket fence.
We have a white fan.
Take it from
We
one
just
place
stack-
and
we just
put
stack
it in
them up,
another
right?
place.
Take from the front.
Yeah, just stack them.
There you go.
Yeah,
Repurposed
okay.
white lattice, yeah.
I'll open it up for any public comment. Any public comments? Any, none? Anything online, Will? Okay. So we have, we kind of have 3.5 recommendations. I think you have those down. Do we need to, I don't think we need to take a vote on it. Okay. Okay. Okay.
So this is on plans for the park itself.
Yeah, this is capital improvements and they don't necessarily have to be done in the next fiscal year,
So
just.
can I make a comment then?
Sure, go ahead.
So on some of the other meetings I interlope into,
Mhm.
we've been talking about trying to have some events. If it wouldn't be here, it'd be somewhere else, which would be Jennings Pavilion. And you wouldn't do them here for a lot of reasons, one of which is parking is a serious problem. And the other is the sort of event really is something you want more open than structured like this. So we look at Hoboken Farmer Park and we're trying to do something over there now in September for a senior event. And you sort of ask yourself, gee, how nice does it have to be? What's the purpose of it? I mean, for our purpose, it's fine. The only thing would be better might be some sort of better audio-visual Zoom kind of presence. I don't know if you can you do Zoom meetings over there right now? You can't you?
They've done Zoom meetings, but it's very difficult because I don't think there's any built-in equipment. So you'd have to
Yeah,
bring it in
exactly.
and then run it to
So the
internet.
only thing that we've talked about it in small groups is
Yeah.
had meetings in there. Almost always now you want to have the ability to do a Zoom meeting as well, right?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to do over there if we can't. But on the other hand, what is the purpose of Hoboken Farmer Park Jennings Pavilion? In my view, and talking to some others as well, we kind of think it's really a resident thing. It's not there to rent to people. It ought to be for us to use as residents as we can.
Yeah.
And then rent it if we wanted to. But don't make it a rental property and try to rent it. You know what I'm saying? The purpose is really for the residents.
Yeah,
And then, okay, rental, okay, but don't say it's gonna be rental income for us. Why would you do that? That's not what the town does. We're not here to make rental income. So before anything gets done, the real purpose over there, you got the town survey coming up in.
oh yeah, that's true. It's
in
coming up.
July or something,
Yeah.
that goes into it. And then you got your park thing. But there ought to be a discussion, just keep on getting ideas for the park, I think, everywhere you can. You know, maybe even at Earth Day, talk to people when they're there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I was thinking of for the park, and maybe we should wait till the master plan comes along, but now it's maybe 3 years away, is adding more parking along Jennings, because with Little League coming in, there's just not enough parking anymore. People are parking on the mulch instead of parking in regular spaces. Part of it is also there's the sand area taking up two
Yeah.
parking spots. But even with that gone, if Little League still kind of overflows, and the way the Jennings Pavilion parking is, it's kind of got this semicircle in front of it and then this slanted parking a little farther to the left. And if it was just made straight, you could probably fit in a lot more parking spots. And then maybe even longer term, when Susan is no longer running the play school, maybe you add parking there, take away the portables, add parking there. So that's one idea I had, but we probably are better off waiting for the master plan before we.
If I can continue.
Yeah,
on
go
one
ahead.
thing. We had a trial last Wednesday morning with Menlo College.
Yeah.
Where Menlo had a very large event, and they're gonna have another one in May when they graduate, and they run out of parking.
Oh, they did? Okay.
because they've got all these people come in
Yeah.
and they got students there, they got no parking. Where do they park? They park on the streets of Atherton.
Yeah.
And people in Atherton get pissed off and complain. And so they were trying to figure out what do they do? So a deal was struck to have them park at Hobart Palmer Park.
Mhm.
So the students and some of the vendors came over and parked right by the chief of police's house at that end.
Okay.
And then got shuttled over to Menlo College.
Yeah.
And so the conversation that came out of that is, gee, there's a bigger problem than we think in Atherton for parking. Menlo College has one. We have one in a couple places. Maybe together we could solve the problem some. We can use their area for shuttle when we want.
Yeah.
Because
When we have an event for like Earth Day, yeah, well, we're gonna need the parking.
come to them.
Yeah.
So if we coordinate parking, and is maybe even look at some technologies.
Yeah.
We can increase parking. Good thing to do it together.
Yeah, I mean, for big events, yeah, that would definitely make sense.
I mean, I've been to events at Jennings where it's been rented out to non-Atherton people. And you might have 100 people there anyway, never a problem on parking. And I mean, I don't have the experience Ken does, but the only time I've ever seen a problem is Earth Day. When, of course, we fill up the
Yeah.
place. And I live in Atherton. I wouldn't bother me if somebody parked outside for a big event. They do it.
Yeah.
Neighbors will have a party. So I would think we'd encourage people to go, there's two different areas they could park on the street. We also tell them to park over here when they have a big event. So, but I mean, I don't say it's not a problem, but I like the curved area outside of Jennings. It
Yeah.
does actually give you places to park there, doesn't it?
It does, but it's not efficiently laid out.
Is
You
it
could,
right?
you could fit more, because it's curved and then on the sides are two handicap spots.
Well,
And,
and you could have vertical parking.
and you
is
get,
what you're saying. I
you'd be able
see.
to fit a lot more in.
Well,
Yeah.
here's a case in point.
We,
26th of March.
You should be speaking at a
Yeah,
speaker.
can you, yeah, that's, yeah. Why don't you
There's
just
one
sit up
right
here,
there.
Ken?
Can you not sit with Robert?
or you can use various, yeah.
While we're waiting for Ken, do you want to say something,
No, I
Rob?
was just gonna say, we've had parking discussions over the years.
Yeah.
One of them was when we built the Little League field, that there was just gonna be not enough room for parking. That was being such a problem. So we went through a study to make the parking lots more efficient, as they were calling it, and it was making them narrower. And what we found out, that the people that come over and use the parking spots have this equipment that comes out of the car.
Yeah.
And there is no room between the cars if you cut them down. You can't get the equipment out of the car without the one car hitting the other car. So we decided that's a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a good thing to do. And so we didn't make the parking smaller, each one smaller, because it would conflict with who was using the park during the day.
Yeah.
Happened to be the playground. A lot of it was the playground. So I think but should be careful of that one, because there was a look
Yeah,
at that.
you can actually fit wide spaces if you made it straight rather than the curved area. Because of the curved area.
Well, I think Bob's talking just about how wide you make the spaces.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And there's
Yeah,
no
I'm talking
problem
about
anymore.
every space that's in the tennis area,
Yeah.
that part, and
Yeah.
what's the name of the thing again? The name,
Fittings or-
yeah, Jason, the place we just overlooking the floor, I
Yeah.
can't think of the name of
Yeah.
it. But at any rate, right, all those parking spaces are a certain size.
Yeah.
We looked at making them smaller, therefore getting.
Yeah, I wouldn't make them smaller.
getting
I would
larger
just
width, and-
extend it out.
So
Yeah.
what you're trying to do is take 10 spaces, 6 or 8 for 10 spaces, and make them larger. And get 2 more.
There's room for more spaces if you
Yeah,
made them, if you
But more
straighten it
spaces
out.
is like 4.
But Bob, you know what
No,
we
I
have
think
now?
there's more than that, because they make them extra wide because of the
Yeah,
curve.
Yeah, exactly.
And what we find now is I watch those people, they don't need a wide space. Where does it come out? The back end of their cars.
Some do.
Everybody's got SUVs.
Some do.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
when we looked at it, maybe it's more SUVs now, but we looked at it,
Oh, yeah,
they're
no
coming out the
question.
side too. And I just raised a question about making them narrower.
No, I'm not proposing to make it
Not
narrower.
a way of getting more space.
I-
Now, one other thing, is we had some complaints from tennis players that there was no parking because Little League was playing. And I said, looked across and I see all the empty spaces by the
North
parks,
parking.
by the house.
Yeah, yeah.
All those ones we were parked today there.
Yeah.
They were all open. And this said to the tennis player, you mean you don't want to walk that far?
Yeah.
You're going to come and play tennis? You tennis for 2 hours, but you won't walk another 100
Yeah.
yards to get to your car?
I mean, that's what happens to Little League too, because
Because I was parked over there because I figured the walk would be good for me.
Yeah, right.
So, we just have to look at this on a broader view
Yeah.
than somebody saying, oh, we got a parking problem.
we have a parking problem in a area because people don't want to walk, so then they end up parking in a place they shouldn't be parking.
Well, yeah, I understand that, parking in the wrong place, but because they have to walk a little bit longer, oh, I'm so sorry.
Just to clarify, Alex, you're saying what you've witnessed is when they're parking on the mulch,
Yeah.
the whole place is filled, aren't you?
Mostly, I don't know if the area around Jennings is completely filled, but from what I remember, it's usually filled, and it's the north parking lot that has spaces.
Oh,
I'd say
okay.
that's an enforcement problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
or
I
I hate to say
think
it, another
that
sign,
If
Yeah, yeah, a sign.
additional
Committee
parking.
wants to recommend staff to look at the layout of that parking
Yeah.
lot and see if it could be more efficient, that would be fine.
Okay.
I know it's been looked at by traffic engineers when we did the master plan, and there was a lot of discussion about it. And that was about the same time that the Little League field went in.
Okay.
So there was a lot of, like Bob said, there was a lot of consideration about the parking when the Little League field went in.
Yeah.
But it may be that they didn't look at the issue you're raising
Yeah.
and,
There's definitely enough parking if the north lot was being used.
well, that's an enforcement problem. I
Okay.
think those people that are parking in the mulch should be ticketed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think once they're ticketed, they won't park in the mulch anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It's sort of like the off-leash dog problem in the park.
Yeah.
Once the police focus on it, they solve it.
Okay.
But my guess is the police haven't focused on that.
Sure.
Yeah, they're not out there during the day. Yeah. And Ken.
Yeah,
go
two
back.
parking things. Wally, I think, well, first of all, I think that this top, you had the problem with the SUV comes out the back, right? I think it's a question of SUV versus van. If you got a van, you're taking it out the side.
Ah,
If you're an SUV, you're taking it out the back. And so if those things get mixed, you got that problem.
ah,
So I think the parking problem is a bigger problem than you guys think, but I wouldn't rush off to do a study yet. First thing I would do is say, the biggest parking problem issue is knowing what is scheduled when. For example, the 26th, I think, was the night of the come and learn about how to save your house from burning down thing at Jennings, put on by ADAPT and the police. Pretty low turnout.
sure.
And the low turnout was among other things because there was no parking. People literally came over to park and there was nowhere to go.
Oh, really? Okay.
And the reason was there was a baseball game.
Oh,
Between that and other things going on in the park, there was no parking. And the chief of police basically said, look, had we known there's a baseball game, would have done it at a different time. And so one of the things we think that the town should be doing, quite frankly, Rick, is a better coordination of what events are at what time and what days where. And that's true about the library as well. You know, you get various library events and then you get something in this room at the same time, you got a problem. So if we just coordinate kind of timing first, be a worthwhile thing before we do anything with this a lot of work. Just a comment.
yeah. I just feel every time there's a baseball game, not a practice, but a game, you get the two teams there and the parents, you're gonna you always have the overflow parking.
Well, there
problem.
was a game today.
Yeah.
There was no problem with parking. None at all.
Yeah, no, so that's, yeah.
I
On
mean,
the,
I
on
don't
the,
see where the issue is.
I think on the weekdays, it's probably not as much of a problem as on the weekends, because I do see a consistent problem on the weekends.
Do you?
Maybe because both sets of parents can go and you don't do the carpooling as much. Yeah, so
I
that's my
think-
sense.
I would give you, my opinion is, number one, we don't have the data. Number two, the town is doing more and more events.
Yeah.
Okay, there's just more events than we did previously.
I hope.
Okay, And that's a good thing, okay? I mean, that's what we're supposed to be doing. The thing about it is there's no coordination. Oh my God, we got it, this group and that group and this group all on the same night. So we're gonna have a parking problem. And I don't think that's being coordinated.
But sometimes you can't coordinate it, like if someone's renting out Jennings
Then-
and then there's a baseball
Then we
game.
should let everybody know
We know in the game.
that this is the way that we're gonna park.
Okay,
Either you're gonna have a heck of a time or you're gonna have to get a ride in some way.
yeah,
I mean, we just have to, we should let people know that they're gonna run into a problem, so they don't run into it the night they're trying to go to the thing, which they get there late anyway, so.
Well, I still think it's we just have maybe staff take a look at the parking layout and if they have any recommendations.
And enforcement.
And enforcement, yeah, as well, then, although that's not really the purpose of our capital project recommendation, but maybe it's a solution to it, then you
Yeah.
don't have to actually lay out for that, so. Okay, so, so I guess those are the 4 to 5 items, we're suggesting. Okay, there's nothing else, we'll move on to the playground update. So we met once with Scott, maybe about a month ago, and we looked at some of the bathroom proposals by different vendors, and I can't quite remember since it was a while ago, and Scott's gonna go take a look at some of we made some recommendations for the finishes and things like that.
We
I
did.
remember, and Scott's gonna go look at pricing and come back to us with some more refined models. And then we're just waiting for that meeting.
And we are focusing efficiently on prefabs.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
mean, we see that, you remember the thrust of the San Francisco problem where they were quoted $1.6 million to build a single bathroom and everything, that finally got people into saying, what are you talking about? And somebody stepped forward and said, I can do it for $500,000 or something, which they did. So I think prefab is the way we have to go,
okay.
but it depends, of course, on cost.
We had a lot of input to him. We had a lot of input to him once we looked at what the possibilities were. And like you say, he's gonna come back with that input and say what kind of cost are we talking about?
But it looks like we'll be within budget.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think that will happen.
The only thing I don't think we'll be on time,
No.
because this is taking a little longer than I thought it would. Is there any public comment on this item?
Just want to know, what's the current budget?
800K is the current budget. The bathroom, I believe.
The bathroom.
Yeah. Playground was $1 million.
That's the number.
Well,
That's what the council has budgeted for the playground.
well, but as I understand it, the budget may be changed when we come back to the when then the staff comes back to the
Yes,
council.
yeah, because we presented a proposal to council that was within budget, but things were added back, like I think all PIP for the little kids area. And so it added a little more to the cost, but not a lot more, but it'll be a little bit over budget.
Think of the budget so you get the price.
Yeah, then you have to go out to bid. Yeah, not till you go out to bid. And even then, after you build it, right? Because you can go over the bid budget, over what's bid.
Yeah, each council member, a number of them had, some might call it nitpicking, others might say on a quick look, they had suggestions. But you have to integrate that with the amount of space we have, the whole concept. And that's been sort of hanging out there for, I think, 3 months. And I understand from Robert that they're going to go back to council, maybe individually or whatever, and try to respond to that. Bill Widmer, I'm told, reported to the foundation that $1.5 million is what he said was the so-called budget at this point. I think technically that's not right, but he may be simply referring to what the cost may be.
That seems a bit high, yeah.
I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, there might have been $500,000 more of cost, but when I talked to Robert's assessment was it was $130,000 more. than Park and Rec had recommended. And that was using PIP for the whole area and
Some equipment changes.
putting in a little bit of equipment, more of the musical
Yeah.
things.
Right.
And I think one request was to make the round,
Merry-go-round.
not merry-go-round, the spinner,
Oh, the spinner, yeah.
bigger. But Robert said that's not possible, given.
Oh, the room, yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, Rick. Some of those would require the entire change of the perimeter.
Right.
Because you have to have so much fall space. You know,
Right.
there was so much empty ground
Right.
between some of these.
I thought we agreed we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, so,
So I thought we
My guess
agreed
is
that we
it's
would
gonna-
not do that.
well, the council still has it up in the air. They asked these
I'm
questions.
saying from us.
No, but I think
not
that the
from us.
council made the suggestions they wanted and they were add-ons that it didn't have to come back to the council. My guess is it's about 150,000, not 500.
And
What number doesn't have to come back? What if it's 1.5 million? Does that go back? No.
the council will have to ultimately approve the final version. So I
There's
think,
gotta be, there's going to be an item put out for bid. The council has to approve that.
But when it comes back and says it's 1.5.
It's not gonna be 1.5.
If it was, you'd have to come up with the extra money, right?
or engineer it down.
Yeah.
There's not the will to support 1.5. That's somebody's dream.
Okay, I understand.
That's not that's not real.
And it's not coming back to our committee, right? Not, only the bathrooms, not the
Yeah,
playground.
just the
Okay,
bathrooms up.
so we're done with the playgrounds. Just the bathrooms we're not done with. But-
Sorry.
But I think I think it's all going out to bid at once though, right? It's, yeah, all together. So the bathroom will hold up any going out to bid for the playground. Okay, if there's nothing else on the playground, we'll go on to 5C, the park flooring update.
Yeah, just a small update. As you can see, Jennings Pavilion's been completed. Luxar Flooring did a great job. They will be to the main house upstairs this coming Monday. The main house upstairs will be completed by the end of the week. Then they will be returning the 21st of April to do the art room. So by the end of April, we should have everything complete to flooring at the park.
We can see it in
Awesome.
Jennings Pavilion now?
Yes.
Yes.
Jenny Pavilion is finished.
In fact, if you grab a packet, I think they're in.
There
the-
is some small
the
pictures in
in
there.
there, yeah,
in the
so-
package.
Yeah, looks very good. We're ready to make a lot of money. We already did 5E. Oh, we didn't have a D. Missing a letter. So we'll move on to 6. Oh, wait, but, no, we'll have. Oh, no, we'll move on to 6. So 6A, foundation report. I guess Walt will have to do it.
So, as I say, I was not at the foundation meeting, but the minutes, Frank was, of course, but he's gone. The minutes reflect a extensive discussion by Bill Widmer about a variety of things, including the playground, what we call the library playground, which is going in over here, which he said in any case was $500,000. He did address the clay court issue, and Michael was there, so clearly it's been teed up. I did not see any recommendation. He talked about the bathrooms and basically outlined everything that he thought had anything to do with the park. Frank talked about our ongoing project at the foundation to replace those famous fountains. That famous fountain that goes in front of the main house that was damaged by kids climbing on it apparently and has a lot of history. And so we're going to try to preserve that. He has somebody, a contractor who's actually done work in Lindenwood, who was going to do that once the weather got better, which I assume is at least by now. The foundation is going to support an Atherton student group who's going to do an Easter egg event, and we are going to pay up to $3,000 for them to do that in the park. I don't know any more details about it. One of our members is coordinating that. So that's basically the report of the foundation meeting of prior Monday.
A dozen eggs?
I can't hear you unless you use the machine, sorry.
$3,000 is a dozen eggs?
What?
It's a dozen eggs?
$3,000 is a dozen eggs due to the high price of eggs.
Up to $3,000.
That's one egg.
Okay, that sounds like interesting that we'll have the Easter egg event again.
This will be
Any-
much smaller, I believe, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Any questions or public comment on the foundation report? No? Okay. Park Division monthly report and park events report.
Yes, both of the February and March reports are in the packet for you guys to look at. No big information. We haven't had a lot of rentals, just a few miscellaneous day rentals, things of the main house, but with all the construction of the flooring, I had to block out a lot of time. Repairs. Tennis numbers are in there. Pickleball keeps picking up. Well,
Yeah, it kept up even during the rainy months, the number of pickleball hours being used.
looking forward to April, we do have some events happening in the park. There is an Easter egg hunt, I believe, 13th or 12th. We will have a waste event, Arbor Day and Earth Day all in.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments on the events or the park report?
So, Will, when we look at these events, and I see in March, there were 4 rentals. And there were, and that includes the meadow and everything. Is that what gets us the $2,500 I see of income, $2,285?
Yes. So in March, we had 5 social gatherings.
Right.
2 of them were the picnic area day uses. One was at Jennings Pavilion Memorial. One was a main house rental.
What is the enforcement if people show up on the weekend, since we basically have no town people there, and they show up with 25 people and they have a picnic? There's what, no
There is no
enforcement?
enforcement out there.
Okay.
The risk is that another person has rented it and,
Well, that's
Yeah.
true.
yeah, then they can call the police and the
Yeah,
police
well,
can
I'm
say.
just talking about otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. I
yes.
mean, you can do that. You just run the risk that you can get kicked out if your reservation, if someone actually reserves it.
All the reservations are posted.
Do they get a citation?
Probably not. They just get kicked. I mean, it's a bit of a downer for your event if you're the host and you have to tell your guests or your 25 guests that. you-
I'm not sure it's intentional.
Yeah,
I mean, when I see a park, I mean, I've had, family
Yeah,
get-togethers and
yeah.
so on, other parks. I don't even think about having to pay for it.
yeah.
So
A lot
anyway.
of parks are first come, first served, but we are reservational. So if there is a reservation, it's posted. Somebody sets up and there's a reservation, they will have to move.
Yeah.
But they can gladly move over to the lawn and still have their event.
Without paying.
Yeah, I mean, if they're just, can't enforce that really, I mean, or welcome to, it's a
Well,
public park.
But Andre, if he was still in the,
Yeah, he would try to
he
enforce that.
he
kind of
was very
stuff.
good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very good at
I
that.
mean, how often does it happen that there's some huge group that,
It doesn't happen.
yeah,
Generally
doesn't
not
happen.
large, but those smaller groups will be there.
right, but then in that case, like you're saying, they get bumped if they didn't.
Yeah, that's the risk.
How many is the minimum before they have to start paying? How many people show up? If a family shows up, they don't pay.
It's just the reservation. You're holding the reservation for the area. So if you want to rent the picnic area, the North Meadow, that's what you're paying for, reservation and the tables.
Okay.
It's not
So
a-
if-
it's
so
not by
if I
number.
say I want to bring 30 people in, but we're not going to use those 2 areas, there's no charge.
Yeah, people that show up to the park, I mean, there's not really a charge to that, but if they want the specific areas,
Right.
yes, they have to rent.
Okay.
It doesn't
No,
sound like it's a
there
huge
is- There is, for a number of people, I
Well,
can,
used to be, that's the way we passed it.
so
Yeah, there's a capacity to places.
1 to 12 free, although I've been told we do
So-
actually charge for that.
So if a group of 13 people shows up,
Yes.
regardless of what they use, whether they reserve, not, they should be paying.
In theory, yes, they should be
Yeah.
paying.
Yeah.
And if
That's
they,
what I
if they
thought.
want to guarantee that they'll have a spot.
Right, then they
Then they
pay.
pay, yeah, which
Right.
is, I mean,
the people who show up without a reservation and have more than 13 people, we do not follow that. We don't have any way
To quantify
of
it.
checking to see if
So we
anybody's
said,
come
nobody
in.
shows up on the weekend from the staff.
Well, but
I was
I
saying,
think,
somebody could show up and have 13 people
Right.
and use it, and they should have paid, but they didn't, but there's nobody to say, hey, you should have paid.
Right,
Yeah.
and only if they get kicked off by somebody who has a reservation would anybody know anything.
That's right. Somebody had to be very angry and call the police.
well, thankfully, it doesn't sound like it's a huge problem according to Will, so.
I'm not sure we know.
Well,
Well, I guess the question is it worth enforcing? 'Cause
Yeah.
It's not that
I
much
think,
revenue.
I mean, I think Will would know if there were
If,
issues. Yeah,
I think if we start having people who do reserve, who start reporting a problem, then maybe we should start enforcing, because then it's affecting
yeah.
their reservation and their quality
Right.
of
If there
experience
haven't been any
with the
complaints,
mobile
then
home.
Right.
let's not make a problem. Let's not create a problem where there isn't
The
one.
person has a reservation and there's somebody already there.
Yeah.
What does he or she
They can
do?
call the police.
They end up
and-
calling the police, right?
Yeah. and the
Okay.
Police.
The first thing that they do is they'll obviously, it's posted and they'll ask them to leave. If there's an issue that escalates.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see, and then member comments. Any member comments about anything?
Actually, I did, what was my question? How much are the benches that people purchase with their,
I have a worksheet for it. I'll gladly send it over to you. I'm not sure. off the
Okay,
top of
that's
my
okay.
head, But I
We
do have a,
passed something on that.
yeah, I remember, but I don't remember how much.
And there's one cost really to put it in, which is quite slight, but then we charge much more for maintenance going forward.
Oh, interesting, okay.
So it can be well over
Well,
$1,000.
yeah, technically, that doesn't have to be a correlation between what people pay. There doesn't have to be a correlation between what people pay and how much the bench costs to buy and maintain.
Okay,
Yeah,
no, I
yeah.
know, but that's what I'm saying, but we don't, the people who are donating it are just paying one flat.
Yeah,
fee,
we
and then
have a
they're-
standard
yeah,
fee
yeah.
that if they want to dedicate the bench, yes. Anything else? Any member comments?
Who's conducting the search for the event planner?
we are working on it now, Public Works. So
That-
myself and Ben, our new system analyst, we're going to be putting an RFP out soon for it.
So you're going after companies versus an individual
We're-
for a
We're looking
position?
for everybody. It's
Anybody,
going out to
okay.
anybody and every.
So do
anybody
you
that
want
is-
us to put the word out
Have
to,
recommendations, please let us know.
and if I know of somebody, should I give them your information?
Give it, yeah, the Public Works phone number, Ben or myself.
Great, thanks.
And then is this new RFP, you expect better luck, or is it?
Hoping so. We're reaching out, trying to reach out to more people, more
Okay.
information. So we're reaching out to different areas, trying to find.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, if there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn? We'll have our next meeting May 7th.
I move to adjourn.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks from now. And then second?
Second.
Okay. So move.